be at the end of the workshop meetings, but not at the end of the regular council meetings. Is that?
With that change, I move that the minutes be approved.
I've got a motion and a second with the correction to the November 1 minutes I've got a motion for approval of the minutes.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Agenda Bill 160-110, leasing of Fire Station 95. Mr. Scott, would you like to take that one in the chief's absence?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, the item before you is a proposed lease for the station at 39th and Evergreen Way. We discussed this at your work session last week. The terms of the lease are $2,500 annual rental agreement, and then we would be responsible for utilities and maintenance. Purpose of the lease is to house a Camas medic unit at that facility, as well as one of our own apparatus. The funding for this lease will be from the restricted EMS monies that can't be used for anything other than EMS service provision in the city of Washougal. The recommended action is to authorize the mayor to sign the lease.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to sign the lease agreement from East County Fire and Rescue. Council discussion? David?
Dave, how would you respond to Larry Wagoner's comments that this will not reduce the reaction time or response time on the east side of the city? I believe his point was that there'll be no staffing there.
There will be staffing, there'll be Camas staffing their rescue unit. So they will be, if they weren't there and they were, say, further to the west, I believe the response time would be increased. But they'll be housed there.
Okay.
And will respond from there.
I believe from the chief's comments, you will also have potentially and hopefully will have increased, is that right to say increased response time? We'll have better response time for volunteers or paid staff that of the city of Washougal that live over on that side that currently, when they respond down to the main station to grab an apparatus and head to a fire or an incident, where in this case they've got a vehicle that is there at 39th and Evergreen that they'll be able to respond to, utilize, and respond to the scene without coming all the way down here.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, another benefit to the lease that I didn't mention in my comments is that we've become blessed with apparatus for which we are running out of room to locate, and we could be looking at some kind of capital improvement down at our station in order to adequately protect them. This provides us really, in our opinion, a low-cost alternative to house some of the apparatus.
Thank you. Molly?
Just a point of clarification, is the ambulance currently housed at the 15th Street Police Station?
No, it's down at 39th Street. Their agreement doesn't end until December 3rd.
Okay, but it will end at the end, this year, December 3rd of this year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Michael?
Mr. Mayor, if I remember correctly, it is true that we have a contract with Camas so that they will respond in many cases. And according to the contract, it doesn't really say that it's 50% of the time. It's just a contract for that they would respond. And when the chief was running the numbers, if I understand correctly, we're basically coming out ahead on that deal. And this is, if I understand correctly, in part, a method by which we can somewhat make sure we're paying our appropriate amount of the EMS and fire protection on our side. Is that about correct?
Not on this one. This one
Okay.
has nothing to do with the additional $150,000 payment
Oh,
for EMS.
that's
This is
different
just
issue.
for the
Okay.
lease.
Thank you.
Other questions from council? I've got a motion in a second to authorize the mayor to sign the lease agreement from East County Fire and Rescue for Station 95. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Actually, should we change that to Station 172?
Okay, 172.
Just kidding. And Agenda Bill 162-10, Washington State Department of Transportation Utility Construction Agreement for the SR 14 Improvements Project, SR 14 Camas Washougal Add Lanes and Build Interchange. Mr. Evers.
Thank you, Mayor Guard, council members. Staff is submitting a WashDOT Utility Construction Agreement UT 01516 on the SR 14 Improvements Project for the state to install 12-inch ductile iron pipe and a 24-inch steel casing between milepost 11.93 to 15.54. Costs include mobilization, ductile iron pipe, steel casing, and the plugging of the current existing pipe. These improvements will be replacing. Just to clarify in regards to the DOT Phase 1 project, a quick example is the East Street project that is under construction, and everyone has already realized the impact. Prior to even getting to 30% design and running environmental on that project, we had stakeholder meetings with other utility providers that operate within city-owned or publicly owned right-of-way along East Street. We had the opportunity to sit down with the Northwest Naturals as well as Clark Public Utilities and Verizon's and gave them an opportunity to move their utilities prior to East Street going to construction. This is very similar with the DOT facility. Obviously, we don't have an opportunity to open trench the state route. Department of Transportation would never approve that. So at this point, our alternative would be to directionally bore across the SR 14 prior to construction, which would be close to 3 times more expensive than rolling it into their project. Recommended action this evening, authorize the mayor to sign the DOT Utility Construction Agreement, UT 01516, for the SR 14 Improvements Project.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we authorize the mayor to sign the Washington State Department of Transportation Utility Construction Agreement for the SR 14 Improvement Project.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second for authorizing the mayor to sign. Council comments? Rod?
Trevor, just out of curiosity, with all of the utilities that got involved on East Street, are we the only one that's requesting any crossover of Highway 14 right now? As long as that's open, are we going to see natural gas or anybody go through there as well? Will we see any of that back here?
Yes, Williams Pipeline, they have a large transmission main that comes off of Lookout Ridge, off Woodburn Hill. They've done some improvements in the 2nd Street area, as well as Northwest Natural. We had utility provider meetings over at DOT's headquarters, 40 to 50 in attendance, large meetings, Verizon's, Clark PUDs, so everybody's getting across while they can during this improvement. Where this 6-inch steel water main goes from 2nd Street across to right by Hamilton and towards the port, it's about 45 years old at service life, is almost exhausted. So the timing on that is good to be able to upgrade the crossing. Also, where it lies right now, it'll have close to 24 feet of cover from where they build the highway up, and that'll be where they'll be putting their footings in as well for the underpass.
Well, and the reason I bring that up is that I assumed they were, but it also is justification why we're doing it while it's open, and that's everybody else is thinking the same way. Let's do it now instead of spending 3 times as much to upgrade or bore through or otherwise. So, thanks.
Molly?
Yeah, I know there has been some concern about this 25% contingency, but, you know, and on the surface, it is a little